In the 8th century, we began to know Viking civilization as we do today. The Vikings of Norway and Denmark are legendary for their historical significance, and tales of gold-plundering, axe-wielding, bearded men from Scandinavia continue to be told to this day. A Norwegian legend whose origin dates back 800 years has recently been confirmed by an extraordinary archaeologist's discovery, which is long thought to be triumphalist propaganda. Today, we will discuss the unsolved 800-year-old Viking mystery. It's no secret that the Vikings of Norway and Denmark have a legendary reputation as a powerful force in the world, as furious warriors as Ragnar's sons and Harald Hardrada, who arguably could have been kings of England instead of William the Conqueror. One can only think of a few of the names that come to mind when one mentions the Vikings. It was around the 8th century that the Viking civilization existed, and it lasted until the 11th century, more precisely around 1066, when Hardrada failed at taking the English throne. In spite of this, Viking raids continued throughout the 1000s, with several raiding carried out on English and other countries. There's no doubt that the Vikings left behind a legacy that goes beyond historical journals because they raided and traded so often, as well as built a larger number of new towns and villages in Europe. Despite the fact that Viking relics are still being discovered today, there seems to be no end to it. As a result of an astonishing archaeological discovery in Bursborg, a legendary that has been around for 800 years, long thought to be a triumphalist propaganda, has recently been confirmed. This discovery is in agreement with the account in the Sega of King's Fair, which is said to be over 800 years old. Post-Viking era stories are often regarded as exaggerated sulfur gastronomy, but the discovery of an entirely accurate story confirms that they are accurate as they claim. According to historical legend, there was a young priest named Sverre who was forced to flee from his home in the Faroe Islands in Norway in order to claim the monarchy from Norway. This is the background behind the Faris Sega. His dreams over the years were interpreted as prophetic signs that he was going to achieve greatness in his life. He's been buried in a cave since he was a child. He had been destined for greatness, based on the prophetic dreams he had had over the years. As soon as the man was 24 years old, his mother revealed to him that his real father had been a king. King Sigurd II Haraldsson was co-reigner of Norway, but he was killed by his brother during the power struggle. Sverre, who decided that monastic life was not for him, went to Norway to pursue his destiny because there was no rule stating that only legitimate heirs were able to ascend to the throne. As of that time, claiming the throne was required to undergo a fire trial in order to prove that he was honest enough to the throne. Sverre, however, consistently refused to accept the challenge of ordeal by fire. In medieval times, ordeals by fire were barbaric ways of testing people's truthfulness. It involved walking over a pair of red-hot plowshares or holding a red-hot iron several paces while in doubt. As a result of his refusal to undergo the ordeal, Sverre's claim to royal heritage was dismissed. In spite of the fact that he did not undergo the ordeal, it seems he gained the support of the Swedish crown. They gave him command of the Berkabiners army, which they were putting in place. Oh, and before we continue, to feel your curiosity, please don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to this channel for more videos about this. And now let's get back to it. As a result of their extreme poverty, some men wore the bark of birch trees around their legs instead of wearing shoes, a method of securing their position as kings of Norway. In accordance with this saga, Sverre's leadership transformed the motley crew into an unbeatable team of skilled in adversity. In the end, Sverre was finally able to claim his right to reign as Norway's sole and uncontested king after a long and protracted battle that lasted over 6 years. On a steep cliff plateau at Bursborg, he built the country's first medieval castle named Zion, after the citadel of Jerusalem built by King David. Despite Sverre's decisive victory, civil wars continued throughout Scandinavia despite the fact that he was to rule Norway for 18 years, and he would appoint his son as his successor when he expired. It's likely that his descendants continued to reign for more than a century after his death. In his chronicles, there's still a battle between the Berkabiners and the Baglos, which were the two main warring parties of his Bursborg in 1197. Since King Fair and his supporters wanted to reduce the privileges of the bishops and to set up a church where the king would be in charge, the powerful Roman Catholic Church supported the Baglers, a separate church from the Pope, who the preferred option of the bishops who wanted to retain an independent church. Around Sverre's impressive fortress, the battle between the Berkabiners and Bagler forces were particularly fierce. The Baglers ultimately won the battle. In the Sverre Saga, what happened there 800 years ago is described as the Baglers stealing all the possessions inside the castle and burning every house down. It was he who noted that the Baglers were torn apart by the Baglers. In order to fill the well, they placed a body that had been recovered during a battle in the well, and then stacked stones up until it was completely filled with stones. There was the possibility of poisoning the natural groundwater in this area by taking this action, something that would have prevented future settlements from taking place in this area. It was then that the Bagels incited the local townsmen to collapse and dismantle all of the castle's fortified walls, filling the well with all the latrine waste that had been gathered and the stones from the walls which had been destroyed. After splitting apart the burning all the long houses of the king, they then absconded with the riches they had plundered and left with nothing to show for their efforts. As a result of their turbulent years under Sverre's rule, this castle was destroyed and rebuilt twice. Having said that, let us now discuss the fascinating discovery that has been made and what it means. Since the Sverre Saga was partially written under Sverre's direct sponsorship during his lifetime, scholars have long suspected that the stories told in the Saga were biased because of the circumstances. The details are that it is propaganda of an individual who's claiming to be a winner. 1938, however, there was a report indicating that the skeleton was at the bottom of the fabled well, and that this had been located in 1938, but had been acted upon due to the outbreak of World War II. More than 75 years later, archaeologists explored the plateau and the location of the earlier settlement known as Bursborg, where King Sverre's home was said to have been situated. Upon excavating a well filled with stones, they discovered that there was exactly what was described in the saga about the king's body at the bottom, precisely preserved in its remains. This skeleton dates back to the 1100s, and it has been determined that it was the original skeleton of a man who was aged 40 to 35. Unlike any other archaeological discovery, there was a unique archaeological discovery because it confirmed the exact dramatic story that was recounted in King Sverre's saga, which happened at Bursborg in 1197, that has been preserved in the archaeological records. The skeleton was found beside other items, such as a pair of shoes worn by the man, as well as 2 silver coins inscribed with the king's portrait and name, as well as the king's clothing. Considering the findings of the study, some people believe the other horrific events in the tales are no different from what was shown in the study. Despite the grim nature of the story, it has been proven to be accurate after 800 years. Clearly, the discovery of this cultural gem will only help to obtain a better understanding of the Vikings and the culture in which they lived. It will also help to understand what truly happened to them. Additionally, it's interesting to note that even the most obscure places may contain fascinating history concealed within them. So one should not dismiss a place as boring just because it appears to be obscure. Never underestimate what secret, awe-inspiring treasure you could be hiding beneath your feet, just waiting for you to uncover it. What do you think of this 800-year-old Viking mystery? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and click on the next video you see on your screen to know more about ancient discoveries.